Today, I'm going to be trying out the Seal-A-Meal Vacuum Food Sealer by Foodsaver. When I started looking at which vacuum sealer I wanted to buy, the first place I went to was Amazon. And mainly, the higher priced vacuum sealer was the Foodsaver brand, but there were also a lot of other brands that I was not familiar with. And I think most people are familiar with Foodsaver and Seal-A-Meal. So I decided to go ahead and buy locally. I found this at my local Walmart, and I got the Seal-A-Meal brand, which, by the way, is made by Foodsaver. This particular model was about $45, and the Foodsaver model was about $150. I'm not sure I have enough stuff that I need to seal to justify the $150 for the Foodsaver. So I did opt for the cheaper price Seal-A-Meal. I believe one of the differences in the Seal-A-Meal and the Foodsaver is with the Foodsaver, you can actually do canning. That's not something that I'm going to do. I really just want to be able to seal up plastic bags with meat and foods like that to put in the freezer. So let's open this up and see what's in it. In the box was the Seal-A-Meal sealer, the owner's manual, and 4 bags. I did go ahead and buy some extra bags from Amazon. I bought a 4-pack of these Wish brand bags, which I'm also going to use and see if they work as good as the Seal-A-Meal bags. I've never used a vacuum sealer before, so I'm not sure if this is supposed to be like this or not, but I'm looking at this machine, and you can see there are wide gaps on both sides. And it actually looks like the top of the machine is curved one way, and the bottom is actually curved the opposite way. This may just be how it's designed, but I'm going to try it out, and maybe that is how it's supposed to be. And here are the icons where it says you're supposed to press, so maybe it is designed where it's not supposed to lay flat on both sides. There's not a whole lot to see inside the machine. Here's the sealing strip, and here's the drip tray. And if you just want to seal the bag, you place it here. And if you want to vacuum and seal, you place the end of the bag over the drip tray. The very first thing that I'm going to try to seal are some very boring pieces of bread. And the reason that I'm going to try bread is, first, I want to see if this thing is going to work like it's supposed to. Being that bread is kind of a puffy food, I want to see how much air it's going to be able to take out of the bread. I'm going to be using one of the 4 bags that came with the Seal-A-Meal. And I'll put my bread in. I'll lift this up. And the instructions say to place the end of the bag inside of the drip tray. Close the lid and then push down on each side until the hands-free light comes on. Well, that seemed to work pretty good. Matter of fact, it aggravated the dogs. You can hear them barking. Sealed it up good. Look at that bread. I mean, that just caved that in. Wow. So if it does this good of a job on everything, I think this is going to be a product that I really like. I'm going to sit this to the side, and I'm just going to watch it over the course of this video to make sure that it didn't miss anything and to make sure that it's sealed properly and no air starts kind of leaking back into here. So if you do buy one of these and you see the gap here on each side of the lid, apparently that's just how it was designed. Next, I have a couple chicken breasts, and that is one of the main reasons that I bought this machine. We'll go somewhere like Sam's Club and we'll buy the really large packs of chicken tenders and boneless, skinless chicken breasts. And obviously we can't use that over the course of just a few days. Previously, I was portioning out the chicken breasts and the chicken tenders into Ziploc bags. But because it's hard to get all the air out of the Ziploc bags, if they sit in the freezer for a while, they get freezer burned. Let me open this up. Place the end of my bag in the drip tray. Hold on both sides. And that's it. I don't think it got all the air out on the chicken breasts. You can see it's pretty easy to pull. It's not like how the bread was. I think I'm going to cut this open and I'm going to retry them in another bag. I've repackaged my chicken breasts into another bag, and let me try that again. I think it's about the same. Maybe it got a little more of the air out. And look, this is the first time I'm using one, so maybe I'm expecting it to look like the bread does whenever it can't. I'm not really sure. I'm wondering if it's having a hard time getting to the air on the bottom of the chicken breast. I'm gonna try it one more time using just one chicken breast. This time I have just one in here, and let me see if it works a little better. It seemed to work a little better on one chicken breast, and maybe, like I said earlier, it wasn't fighting to try to get the air from the bottom. I still think this is probably more than enough to keep it from getting freezer burnt. Maybe you could let me know in the comments if you've used vacuum sealers before, and if this is what it's supposed to do, or if I'm doing something wrong. Since I was using chicken in the vacuum sealer, I'm gonna go and wash the drip tray, and then I'm going to seal some more stuff. I'm out of the bags that the sealer meal came with, so I'm going to be using the roll to make custom sized bags. Of course, you can buy more of the pre-sized bags, but they are much more expensive to do that. As a matter of fact, you can buy 4 rolls of these for about $20 on Amazon. I'm going to cut the end of it off where the sticker was holding the roll together. And I'm going to cut about as big of a bag as I think I need. I'm going to just try to keep the end of it straight as possible, which I didn't really do on the first cut that I just made there. Comparing the original sealer meal bags that came with the sealer to the bags that came on a roll, the sealer meal bags feel like they're maybe a tiny bit thicker, but it may also be just because they have more of a texture on them. So I can't really say for sure, but I'm going to try these out and see how they work. It says to seal up your custom size bags, you place the end of the bag between the sealing strip and this lower gasket. And there you go, it's all sealed up. I'm going to try some peas and carrots in here now. Probably not something that I would ever need to vacuum seal, but again, I'm trying to try a variety of things in the vacuum sealer to see how it's going to work. It seemed to do an excellent job on the peas and carrots. I mean, I'm not sure if there's any air left in there. Yeah, that did a great job. I do want to try something a little liquidy. So I'm going to try some chicken noodle soup and see if it's going to do a great job of sealing this or if it's just going to make a mess. So I placed my bag between the sealing strip and the lower gasket. Sealed right up perfectly. All right, let me try to get this soup in here without spilling it everywhere. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Well, I can't say it did quite as good on this as it did some of the other items. You can see it really didn't seal at all for some reason. And maybe it was my fault. So I'm not going to give up yet. I'm going to try this again. Okay, it didn't seal for a second time. And maybe it's just getting too much liquid in there. I'm not really sure. But like I said, I wanted to be sure that it wasn't me doing something wrong or something like that. I don't think that it was me. But maybe soup is just too wet to seal. So just something to think about if you're going to buy one of these sealers and if you're going to be using wet foods. And that may also be a problem with the chicken breasts. But I decided that I'm going to try the chicken breast one more time before I finish this video. And there's something I want to try before I just say that it doesn't work well for those. I cut another bag and put some chicken noodle soup in it. I didn't put as much in this bag, but I do want to try something different. And this time I'm going to let the bag hang over the side of the cabinet and see if that makes any difference. It did seem to take more air out of the bag this way, but nothing close to what the bread or the peas and carrots looked like. Here's another really good example of something that could be vacuum sealed. The other day, my son was hungry, so I cooked half of a roll of breakfast sausage and some eggs. Well, of course, I put this back in a Ziploc bag because I didn't have the vacuum saver. Actually, I did have the vacuum saver, but I was waiting to do the video. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's ice crystals forming on the end of the meat. And that's where the meat starts to degrade and get freezer burnt. Then I could have sealed it up and it would have been as good as it was before I ever cut into it. Another thing that I'm going to use this for, my son is serving in the Army, out of state of course, and we send him care packages quite a bit. And sometimes he requests things that are liquid. And the Postal Service absolutely wreaks havoc on some of the boxes. We sent him some cookies for Christmas and they were basically a powder when he received them. But when he does request something liquid, I'm always worried that their abuse of the boxes are going to cause the liquid to bust and ruin everything in the box. So now if we want to send him something liquid, and no, we're not going to be sending him sriracha. That's available where he's at. I'm just using this for an example. But we can put it in the bag. And this is not something that I would necessarily vacuum seal. But the vacuum sealer also doubles as just a sealer, as you can see I was using to create my own custom sized bags. So there, anything liquid is in a sealed up bag. And while the post office may still manage to bust the bag, I think there's a lot less chance of it with the liquid being in a sealed up bag. Just an update on the bread. It's still vacuum sealed perfectly fine. It's still really weird. I wish you guys could feel how funny that is. But yeah, it's still doing good. As I said earlier, I wanted to try the chicken breasts one more time. So I'm taking a paper towel and just drying off any excess moisture on the chicken. So I've cut one more bag, and I've got just one chicken breast in here, and I did my absolute best to get this as reasonably dry as possible. So I'm going to try one more time and see if this makes much of a difference. It definitely did take more air out of here, I believe, than on the previous attempts. Enough air that I wouldn't have any issue storing this in my freezer this way. I tried to do a good variety of different foods with the Seal-A-Meal vacuum sealer. And as an overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I do wish that it vacuum sealed the wet foods a little better, but for me that's not really a deal breaker. And if you have any advice on how to seal wet foods better, please leave it in the comments and let me know. Because like I said earlier, this is the first time that I've ever used one. But as far as the other stuff, I do like it. And I also mentioned earlier that I wanted to buy boneless chicken breasts and chicken tenders in bulk and vacuum pack them. And I'm still planning on doing that, even if I have to towel them off and dry them a little better. At the price point of this vacuum sealer, I still think it's a pretty good value. I did do a fair amount of research before I chose this one. And it's also a name that's been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, my parents have owned 2 of them over the years. And they're the ones that actually recommended this brand. So that's going to wrap this video up. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.